Planning Committee meeting to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of our September 17th meeting.
They were very lengthy, but so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. So ordered. Okay, this is the part where if there's anybody from the public that would like to make any comments for anything that's not on the agenda, please speak up now. Hearing none, we're going to move on then to subdivision land development plans. The first one is LTPC 327, Millersville Apartments Land Development Plan, and this is an action item. So who do we have presenting?
Good evening, Mike Davis from Barley Snyder. I have with me Tom Borghetti and Matt Johnson, both from Berger Development and Millersville Apartments LLC, and also Adam Westgate from David Miller Associates. For purposes of our presentation this evening, I'll just give a very brief overview of the project. Then I'm going to ask Tom to provide some background with regard to Berger Development and Millersville Apartments Apartments LLC. And then Adam will go through details with regard to the specific plan. The last time that this particular project was before you was back on May 21st of this year. At that time, we ended up presenting a sketch plan to you, and actually it was Adam and Tom who did that presentation to the commission. The project proposes 48 apartment units on 4.75 acres of land located at 1896 Millersville Road at the intersection of Millersville Road and Honeysuckle Lane. As you can see from the diagram here, there are 4 buildings. There are 12 units per building, and the apartment use is a use by right in the R2 zoning district. We are seeking conditional approval of the preliminary final lot add-on and land development plan for the project. Since the presentation of the sketch plan to you in May, there's been a very productive dialogue between the project team and township staff with regard to the project. Most recently, we received the township engineer's second review letter dated October 8th, and we're working through a few remaining items on that review letter. And with that, I will turn it over to Tom.
Good evening. As Mike said, my name is Tom Borghetti. I'm development manager with Berger Development, and was part of Berger Communities. For those who don't remember from last time, Berger Communities is an owner and operator of apartment communities throughout Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, and Ohio. At this point, we operate over 11,000 apartment units. And for our new project here at Millersville Apartments, we're proposing 48 units throughout 4 buildings. As Mike said, there's 12 units per building. It's going to be 13 one-bedroom units and 35 two-bedroom units. And since the last time we were here, I can go through some of the things we adjusted per planning commission comments and also township comments. One of the big ones was centered around the basin and enhancing the overall experience and recreation use for the basin. We've extended kind of this viewing area into a platform overlooking the basin and included some additional plantings centered around that platform for everyone to view. We also added a secondary seating area, a bench overlooking the basin, with also some interpretive signage that will be dedicated to the former schoolhouse that was here. There's also going to be interpretive signage at this platform, just kind of talking about the open space and the commitment of the township to the open space. Some other things we've added to the plan per the county planning commission comments were some bike racks here. They thought it would provide alternative transportation for the residents and make greater use of the trail here. One aspect that wasn't shown on the previous plans that we've highlighted here is the plantings throughout the street frontage here and also on site and, we've taken care in regrading some of this area to protect some existing trees, with the exception of some areas that we're grading here and the trail that's going to be passing through there. Now, upon review of, the township engineer's letter, we believe with the, exception of the waivers and one in particular we would like to discuss, everything else in the letter is will comply and will continue working, with the township to address all of those comments. I don't know if the planning commission would like to go through each item individually in the letter or go right to the waiver discussion.
Let's hear from Ben first.
Sure. Well, I agree with everything that's been said, and also believe it's been a very fruitful back and forth development of the project. The one bit of a head scratcher, I guess, if you will, has to do with some of the street tree placement. There's difficulty in placing the street trees along Millersville Road, 741, exactly. Although it's green there, there is a water line easement that is a little difficult to see, and that takes up the first 20 feet or so that's within the within the property. Then there's the slope of the berm, not always optimal for putting street trees into a berm. And then there's the sidewalk / trail that is an amenity that we feel is important. And then you're into the basin itself. Again, not an optimal place for putting street trees. So a couple of ideas come to mind. One is, well, can we put the trees elsewhere on the site? But then that really doesn't have the impact of a street tree. The other option might be doing some other kind of smaller planting along the berm or within the easement, something that would be acceptable, but that would sort of give a sense of continuing a corridor that has landscaping to it. So I'm not sure what the final solution would be. We did provide to you in the packet both a copy of the plan as well as the report of, which I thought was very well done, the Save a Tree report, and then the listing of what the preservation plan was going to be for how many trees were going to be kept and exactly which ones. There's some pretty good sized trees out there that are I thought rather remarkable in their size and the species. So things we did not want to have just clear cut, and they're definitely being very judicious with how they're proposing to do some of those tree removals and the preservation plan. So perhaps we could get into the street tree discussion to focus on. Adam, did you want to weigh in, or Tom?
I can go over briefly our thoughts. So first I'll talk about the street trees kind of that we are showing on the plan. The requirement for our site frontage would require us to plant 15 street trees, anywhere between 40 and 60 feet. Now, to maximize the amount of street trees we could fit here, we condensed them. They're about 45 feet apart, so we try to use the available area we had as much as possible, and so that counts for 6 street trees here. Then we are, as Ben stated, we're doing our best in protecting the large trees that are here. Some of those are as big as 38 inches. There's a 31-inch tree, 29-inch tree, and then multiple trees ranging from 2 to 9 inches. In our calculation, that would count for 3 trees out of our 15 there, which would leave us with 6 street trees that were not meeting per ordinance. So our initial thought is to still keep the street trees up front and between the road and our site. We could, plant some here to the extent possible, and here and maybe along this side of the basin, keeping outside of the stormwater easements we have here.
There was one that might go in the, close to the intersection, Tom, if
Yeah.
you thought about what you want to do with that?
So we did discuss this location here, and I can show you on a plan where we show some grading. I stated before, we want to keep it outside the slope of the berm. Really, any planting shrubs or larger trees will compromise the integrity of the berm. So that leaves us with a very, small flat area right here between the bottom slope of the berm and the sidewalk. There is existing today a utility pole there that's going to have to be relocated and likely pushed back into that area. So our concern with planting a tree there is that it's going to grow up and impact the utility lines. And not to say we couldn't plant one there, but once it starts impacting the utility lines, the utility provider is going to come and cut whatever they see fit to maintain that line, either killing the tree or making it not looking aesthetically pleasing. We do want to note that if you drive down Millersville Road, there are no street trees along the Comet Field property. And even on the other side of the road, it has hedges and some evergreen trees. We believe Comet Field encountered the same issues we are having here, not only the water line easement, but there's also utility lines running here. So if we were going to plant the tree, it would have to be a smaller tree or a hedge so it doesn't grow up into the utility lines.
We did require them on the Martin Elementary School site. They are there, but they're a little bit farther down in, so they don't appear quite as prominent as normal street trees would.
Okay. So with that being said, other than the trees or shade trees we could plant interior to the site, closest to the roadway, there is a small area outside the water line easement in between the curb where some shrubs or smaller hedges could be planted, similar to the apartment community across the street that has a hedgerow along here. But we believe to maximize the aesthetic from the street, that planting the larger trees interior to our site would be optimal.
What is the, if I may, what is the value in the street trees along there? What are we trying to achieve with the street trees along there? And absent that, what would be in our best interest to provide?
Anybody want to weigh in on that?
We don't have Angie here, too bad, so.
I'm here.
I'm sorry. She was biding her time.
That was gonna be my question too, was what's the purpose of the street trees in the ordinance?
It is essentially to create a corridor along the street. They're more generally thought of along residential streets rather than a collector or minor arterial such as 741. But they are aesthetic in essence. They offer shade. So if you were walking on the sidewalk, you could be under the shade of a tree. So those would be the main things.
Thank you.
Tom, do you as the applicant have a preference? Did I understand you? Do you prefer to plant the street trees within the site, or do you prefer to put in a hedgerow along 741?
I think our preference would be to plant them within the site, just to kind of keep everything that we're maintaining as close as possible. And we do think it would add aesthetic to the community, and by putting them near the parking, it is providing that shading of impervious factor. Even if we had planted hedges along here, that's not going to provide much shading to the path or anyone.
Okay.
So that would be our preference, but we're open to any suggestions the planning commission has.
Great.
seems practical and offers benefits. I'm going to defer to Angie.
Yeah, no, I just some questions about, so, okay, obviously the buildings are where they live, but I don't think there's a playground, or is there any common areas that you foresee people, you know, maybe a picnic hanging out in, that adding trees and shade and kind of that sort of environment would add value?
So we are proposing a patio and pergola here.
Okay. That's pretty
Again,
tight between
yeah,
the buildings,
it's pretty
right?
tight in this area. I would say we could only maybe get like a smaller shade tree. We have a storm sewer easement running through here, and then on this side, you're starting to get, you know, very close to the building, and then you have the wall there as well. That's why these areas, they provide, you know, enough separation between, you know, the easements and the wall to fit some trees.
And then on the, which direction would that be?
What's the
The
yellow?
west there, the western, you know, we have like the road that comes in along the property, yeah, that road. Is there, you know, would there be any value adding on the back end of the property there between?
So we did look at
existing
that
dwellings?
as well. All right, yeah, do some flip flopping to get here. This one has the grading. We did look at adding some more in here. Fortunately, there's a swale that runs through here
Okay.
to, you know, direct the runoff from the properties to the rear of us into inlets, and there's also a storm easement there. When we looked at the option of adding trees back here, we could add them, again, adjacent to the parking area, because there is a little berm there, so it wouldn't impact any drainage or grading, and again, provide, you know, shade to the parking lot. But this area here is, you know, pretty well buffered as well.
It would seem to me your original suggestion of having them within the site, but up front as sort of a buffer from the road, from the complex, makes a lot more sense than perhaps.
Well,
you know,
they're looking for 6, so you know,
Okay.
maybe there was a mix, you know, plot one in the back and there's a couple room for some up front. I mean, a dogwood's not a big tree. It might be a nice feature between the buildings to add some greenage, you know, between the buildings. I don't know exactly what the
Ben,
distances
I
are.
was under the impression that we would pick these trees from the Lancaster Township recommended street tree list.
Which
Or-
dogwood is not.
Okay, okay. I didn't know if we're deviating from actual street trees, if
Well,
that's all part of the conversation.
it's all part of the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the trees at the corner there might be some issue with sight distance of folks coming out of there if there were some large trees planted there.
So we did have that discussion as well, and your subdivision and land development ordinance does not require this clear sight triangle, and the PennDOT sight distance would be, you know, closer to the roadway here, but yes, we had seen that as well. That sight triangle will be, you know, removed from the plans. It's not.
Clear sight triangles are required by our ordinance only where it's not a stop-controlled intersection.
Only where it's not stop.
You like that word, don't you?
Isn't that a stop controlled intersection?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that a stop controlled?
It is. That's why there's no clear sight triangle that's required.
Okay,
They put it on the plan. I'm telling them it's not required.
sure. What I'm getting is I'm in favor of them going elsewhere. I mean, we're taking away a decent amount of that wooded space over there, and it seems to be there's not any plants coming back on what is north, I guess, the western side of the plan over there on that slope, yeah.
Correct. There's, other than these plantings here, there's no additional plantings proposed in here. There is an existing row of trees on the property line that's remaining.
And I suspect there's going to be rock in there.
There is a lot of rock.
Filling that up in there, or are you cutting that down?
Cutting.
We are cutting, based on our rock exploration, we should just be scraping the top of it. This rendering here even shows a nice colored image of the rock at the surface there.
Are you saying that you wouldn't be able to plant trees along that slope or no?
See, unlikely within the area that we're cutting. I think if we push it back closer to the property line, we could plant them. And field locate in areas that are gaps, between the existing trees that are there. But it would,
And that cut is to provide a certain grade and the flow paths? Is that why
Correct.
that gets cut?
yeah, it's so we can tie in the grade to the site at a 3-to-1 slope.
Gotcha.
Other questions? Planning Commission? So I guess the question would be whether or not we want to do these one at a time, or if we want
I've got a
to.
few other questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you just talked with PennDOT at all about creating a mid-block crossing?
We have made our submission to PennDOT and got our reviews. It was not recommended that we do a crosswalk at that location. And we've resubmitted addressing PennDOT's comments.
Okay. And I don't see a crosswalk proposed at the intersection there on Honeysuckle, at any of the intersections. So Honeysuckle and, what's that cross street in there?
Eddington?
Eddington, yeah.
We do provide ramps for the crosswalk. So I'm not,
We did have a review comment about providing the piano keys crosswalk across the access drive, which we addressed.
Yeah, but I'm saying for folks that are now that possibly might cross the street there, there's nothing for them. There's no visibility.
There's not a painted crosswalk, that's correct. Painted crosswalks are, they fall in and out of fashion, let me just say that. Sometimes they're perceived as being desirable, and then sometimes they're thought to encourage people to casually and brazenly walk in front of traffic. So there are times when we weigh in as township staff to say, yes, you need a crosswalk here. And the one that was put forward is that a crosswalk was needed across the access drive, but we did not state that one was needed crossing Honeysuckle Lane.
I feel like I would want to see one there. I mean, there's possibilities for folks crossing there to go into that neighboring neighborhood, say their friend lives there. And we're putting a crosswalk along the access drive that essentially goes to a sidewalk to nowhere. So they kind of contradicts each other, and by putting visibility there.
I'm not sure what
The existing crosswalk that's shown right now, their proposed crosswalk across their access drive.
Yeah. And what
Goes
was
to
the
a
second?
sidewalk that ends.
Right.
So is there really going to be that many folks crossing there? Versus folks that are going to be crossing possibly to go into a neighboring neighborhood?
We've offered the input from Public Works Department as to where we wanted the crosswalk to go. It is our road and will be our road. I think we fully have the ability to add a painted crosswalk in the future if we feel like it's necessary.
Okay. And then I had some concerns with that crosswalk at the intersection with Millersville Road. Is there a crosswalk there?
I believe
I
there's an
see
existing
lines.
striping there.
So when you come back and pave there, you're going to be taking out half of that crosswalk?
We would restripe it in kind to what we're repaving.
Okay. Where that stop sign is presents some safety concerns. There's a stop sign there that sits behind the crosswalk. So where are we asking folks to stop there? In the crosswalk?
Yeah, it's an existing condition. We didn't propose any changes to.
Yeah. I mean, we're coming in here and putting in a decent amount of apartments and folks that are gonna be living here. My view is that we should be trying to make this better and provide better access for folks and safety for the folks that do want to be walking.
So you're saying we have a stop bar?
There is no
at that
stop.
end? Oh, there's no stop bar, there's only, yeah, so there needs to be a stop bar prior to the crosswalk to indicate where the traffic should be stopping.
Did you say that there's going to be a traffic light here? Is that what you said?
No, stop sign.
Just a stop sign.
I was just out on the road today, and I can't remember what the configuration of the pavement markings are.
How about if there was a crosswalk down here at the lower where you talked initially?
Yeah.
And you eliminated the one up here to encourage people to cross?
I think
further
that's, to me, that's safer.
Was anybody walking further
Yes.
south?
Yeah, how many, did you say one bedroom? I'm thinking of, how many of these, where's the adults walk? But do you suspect that there'll be, maybe some people that'll have one child or two child, or is it's primarily adults, no children? What's your experience?
Yeah, I mean, typically in our newer apartments, we have very few, well, usually the question is about school-age children, right? So
Yeah.
we always have very few school-age children, but to the extent we have two-bedroom apartments here, like it certainly could be a young family with a child, like walking.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could see that being a possibility.
So they might cross into that neighborhood across the street. They might try to cross to the neighborhood across the street and then walk the sidewalk up to Common, thinking about. But they're probably not crossing Honeysuckle from that sidewalk and continuing down 7th.
No.
There's nothing else down.
There's more homes that are
Yeah.
farther and farther
Yeah.
apart, right? There's no pedestrian facilities that way.
Yeah.
Well, I would think we certainly could take another look at the pedestrian crossing close to the intersection of Honeysuckle Lane and 741. And I would think something could be worked out there. We're definitely directing pedestrians across. Do we have a receiving ramp on the other side, Adam, over here? On your side?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so we definitely can get something in there. So we can certainly figure that out. The township is going to be undertaking to pave the other half of Honeysuckle Lane. The entire road is going to be redone on their half as part of their project. And then the township is going to be doing the other half. Hopefully we can all work together and figure that out. I don't know how that's going to work exactly, but that's the idea. And so we'll be making sure that we get a crosswalk at that point.
So
That
any
makes
concerns
sense.
from PennDOT about the right turn there?
No, there was no comments from PennDOT about the right turn.
When you said right, you're talking about from
So coming down Millersville and making a right to get onto Honeysuckle, there's no right turn lane, there's not enough space for one, but there is a left turn lane that, to get into that adjacent neighborhood.
Mill Creek? Mill Creek, yeah. It's called.
Correct. So on our initial submission to PennDOT, we were proposing 10 feet of widening, which would give the illusion of a right turn lane. So PennDOT asked us to reduce that to 5 feet because they did not want the right turn lane there.
Okay.
So it'll just be a 5-foot shoulder.
Did they do a traffic impact study or a traffic impact assessment?
Here, the AM and PM peaks were under 50 trips, so neither were required for this project.
What was the existing peak?
To this property part was,
No, for folks accessing Honeysuckle.
that wasn't part of our assessment. We just did trip generation for the proposed use.
Okay, so you're saying, how many trips do you propose to generate from this property?
In the morning, it's 38 trips, 9 coming, 29 exiting, and in the evening, it's 41 trips, 26 coming and 15 exiting. So the peak trips will be, 29 leaving the site in the morning.
Okay. I'm curious what the existing is and if we're making the condition worse by adding that many trips without any type of thought about people making it right here and stopping traffic behind them and folks flying down Millersville.
So they didn't do any traffic counts?
We did a trip generation.
Yeah, but you didn't do any actual traffic counts, that's
We-
to answer John's
We
question.
did not.
I do like what you guys do with the basin. I think the viewing platform is a great way to encourage folks to interact with the stormwater feature. The bike racks, this might be a bit nitpicky, but if you've ever used a bike, you don't stick your front tire in the rack like that. I don't understand why they're still kind of used that way. You lean your bike up against the rack and you lock to it. Because if you just stick your tire into it, your only option is to lock your tire into it, and someone can easily just take your tire off the bike and steal your bike. And also you'll bend the rims of your bike by just resting in there. Is there any way you could look at a different type of bike rack? You see them in the city often. Is there those red structures that have just a flat face for you to lean your bike up against?
And we can certainly look at a different bike rack. This is actually one that we, proposed at our property in the city as well. For like the amount of space we have to provide, it does allow for the maximum number of bikes to fit in there. We're proposing 10, 5 at each, but we can look at some other racks.
Ben, do we have anything in the ordinance that addresses what kind of bike rack they need?
No, we don't.
Yeah, so I think we can pass it on as a comment. All right.
I have a question that might tie back into the street tree discussion. So in the parking lot design, are these cutouts,
I can't see.
these little U cutouts, are they purposeful or from a design perspective? Where I'm going is, if we're looking for places to put trees, if they're just for design, I'm not sure, but if the cavity's large enough, then maybe trees could go there and they'd help shade cars and parking lots.
I think some are proposed there already. Those are what we call interior
Are those-
landscaping islands.
Okay, this version didn't have that
Yeah.
on, sorry, okay.
Hard to see that.
All right, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. Okay, well then I guess it was a good idea because you got it. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong sheet there. Okay,
But I think there are 4 landscape islands that have no proposed tree. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And would it be a problem to locate them in those, 4 of them in those locations?
No, it doesn't look like there's any conflict with utilities or anything. So, yeah, and those 4 islands,
So would that be, that gets them a farther away from the street, so they're not really a buffer between the buildings and the road?
Yeah, I think they're looking for
But-
6, so if that fits 4, and then another 1 or 2 goes up on the other end, then you might have your six spots.
yeah, we could propose these 4 and 1 here and 1 here.
Seems to make sense for all the various limitations.
Okay, any other questions? Then what's your pleasure? Do you want to do this 7 together, or do you want to do them one by one?
I actually would ask that we do the street tree ones separately, and because that seems to be kind of
Okay,
a little trickier. We need to get the verbiage just right, I think.
all right. So I'll entertain a motion from someone that
Can I just add one comment? Is it, would you, just thought of another thing, in these parking islands, they might not be suited for a similar sized tree as the street trees. Would you be open to a substitute if it's not within the street tree, approved street tree list? I mean, we would try to fit them, but
well, unless we have comments, we would leave it up
Per
to the
Ben's
staff.
review,
Yeah.
I would be comfortable
Leave it up
with
to the
that.
staff.
Okay.
Okay, then let's take a look at a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they approve the following waiver and modification requests listed in Ben's October 8th, 2024 review letter. The first one being the subdivision land development ordinance Saldo 305 preliminary, that plan, Ben?
Yes.
Application. And 2, the reconstruction of perimeter streets. 3, the sidewalk location and material. 4, the curbing height. The next one would be stormwater management ordinance for the maximum loading ratio. And then the horizontal scale of stormwater profiles. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now, let's address the request for section 607.03.f.6 street trees. And I will entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of section 607.03.f.6 to the satisfaction of the township engineer's review of the additional street trees.
Alternative location and species.
Of the alternative location and species of said trees.
So you have that, Gretchen?
I got the satisfaction of his letter, but then we bounced.
No, not to the letter,
No.
but
Okay.
this would be a future review.
Misunderstood him.
Right?
It's a approval based on the satisfaction of a future review done by the township engineer
Sure.
to substitute the location and species of the trees.
Second.
Make sure Gretchen has it.
Yep.
You good, Gretchen?
Who seconded it?
Tom. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Ben, if we have native trees to pick.
I'm sorry?
Ben, if we have native trees to pick.
That is an alternative subdivision, yeah. Subdivision land development, the Saldo. We'll need a motion for that,
For the plan itself?
for the plan itself. Yes, thank you.
And I've got a question I just remembered while we were doing the motions there. We talked about what the buildings would look like last time. Do you have any renderings? And like, have any decisions been made?
So these are elevations of the two buildings that'll be furthest from Millersville Road. The ones closest to Millersville Road will also look similar to this. There's a little different dimensionally from the front and the rears, but the size will be the same. So we have a very traditional look here with gabled roofs, brick facade mixed with horizontal and vertical siding. Shows a mix of colors.
The facade, you said will be brick?
It will be brick. Here. The overhang feature, and it's tough to tell from here, but there will be kind of different projections in the brick, and it will be inset a little bit to add some interest there. It's an exterior stair, so no doorways here. Every unit will enter from their own door within that open stairwell.
And that faces the interior of the property? Is that how that's
So
oriented?
this front elevation of
Yeah.
building 3 is right
Okay.
here, and front elevation of building 4 is here. And then, the sides will be what's facing, Millersville Road and the interior.
That they look good, and I'd like the addition of the brick.
And again, just as a point of education, I guess, is that we don't have a architectural requirement.
Right.
We do have language in the ordinance about architectural features matching the existing. In the zoning, I think it is. I remember reading it before I came here last time. There are more recommendations, but less requirements. But I think they're worthy of discussing here.
Okay, back to the subdivision and land development plan, looking for a,
I'll make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors for approval for the
land development.
land
Subdivision
development plan for
plan.
Millersville Apartments, subject to Ben's conditions in the letter dated October 8th.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then the stormwater management plan. Same request for a motion? right? Or not?
Typically, that's folded in with the
Folded,
land
okay,
development
all right,
plan, so I
fine.
don't think we need a separate motion, but thank you
Okay.
for considering that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen. Good job. I want to see blue windows.
Okay, we'll move on then to the second one. This is a briefing item. LTPC 330, 2460 Honeysuckle Lane subdivision plan. Are you going to be the briefer, Ben?
I am. You know how I get. Mr. Good, I believe, is that right? Scott? Yes, Scott Good is one of the property owners, but Harbor Engineering did the plan. This was a subdivision plan, and they were unable to make it this evening. I said, well, if you trust me to do an appropriate briefing, they said, yeah, please. So essentially, it's a very simple plan. It's a creation of a flag lot behind an existing dwelling. This is also along Honeysuckle Lane, completely coincidental.
Is it like down this way further?
It's farther away from Millersville Road,
Yeah,
farther
okay.
farther to the west from 741. And the neighborhood here is very well established. Across the street is Comet Field, portions of Comet Field, and then also Crossway Church. This is the Crossway Church property has frontage on Honeysuckle Lane, so that's sort of in this area as well. The applicant went through a special exception approval. They did stormwater infiltration testing. They started working on the subdivision plan, and then the unfortunate demise of Mr. Sanchez, Jim Sanchez, who has been a long-time engineer and surveyor in Lancaster County. He passed away, and Mr. Good decided to continue with the project and hired Harbor Engineering, which is a very, as you know, very reputable firm that appears in front of us frequently. So the proposal is to build a new dwelling and new garage with a driveway on the flagpole, and then they've worked out stormwater management, both to pick up water from the driveway on this lot as well as the impervious areas on this lot. So there's a lot of infiltration beds that are proposed. So we got this in. I just finished a review letter of this yesterday. There are a couple of things that I think still need to be worked out. I would not recommend taking any action on the plan or any of the waivers at this time, but just allow us some time to work through some of these issues. So, are there any questions that you might have about this at this time, or input or anything?
You sure?
Just can't see what's happening.
So are flag lots only allowed to be a special exception?
I believe so, yes.
Right, and special exception meaning went through the zoning hearing board, right?
Right.
Do we expect any friction with neighbors?
I haven't heard of any objectors that went to the zoning hearing board. There's some of the grading that's shown to go right up to the property line, and my caution was that they get some sort of confirmation from those adjoining property owners that they're okay with grading being up to the property line, because it probably will go over.
Great idea. Since the situation on Center Road and Ridge.
Yeah. Okay.
Ben, when we're looking at the existing conditions and demolition plan, I'm reading that this is the current property, or this is the current property? Which one's the? That's 24, so this is the existing one. So this well to be removed, is
Yeah.
that associated with this, or is that just? some
Yeah, that's
other
that's all, this whole thing that's in the dark line.
Yeah.
That's the entire current property.
And what's the paid up regulation about the well, though? How's that tie in? Is that structure being added to public
I think it's
water?
because of
Is
the
that-
lot area.
Okay,
If I recall correctly, the lot area has to be of a certain size if you're going to be served by well or sewer, and so
now it's being,
now it's being made smaller, right?
okay.
Is that correct? Is that, am I remembering that right?
There was something about the road frontage.
Road frontage? Okay.
That'd be 200 feet.
Yeah, okay. So it was a zoning regulation that since they were making it smaller, they had to change the one of the sewer, water, or both.
Was this going to public for both? I thought it said.
It is, yep. I just can't remember what the trigger was. It's been a little while.
Okay, so it would have been, if they wouldn't have made some changes that triggered that, it would have been grandfathered and it could have stayed as a.
Yeah. But you're hooked up to sanitary sewer today, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it just was the water thing.
Yeah. Better that than the other way around, right?
Yeah,
Is Lasso waiting yet on the building over the easement?
I don't think so. I don't think they've approached LASA yet, because the review letter was just yesterday.
When did Harbor start working with Mr. Good?
By March,
March?
April.
Yeah. And they, as you know, they're very active.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Last probably would have had to weigh in though to connect to the system, no?
Right, it's a different request, though.
Okay.
Is there anything else we should know about this at this time?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be pretty straightforward and mostly come down to stormwater management.
So, do you suspect that they'll be working on addressing all your comments before next meeting, or will it be December?
I haven't heard back at all. Obviously, if they wanted to be in front of you with, for approval at your November meeting, they would have had to resubmit today.
Yeah.
So I would think it's December or later.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions that anybody has? Angie?
No.
Okay.
They're not using milk crates, are they? For their infiltration?
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Mr.
Sure.
Good.
All right.
Okay, that takes care of our agenda, but Tom, do we have anything else? We need to close our meeting?
I think we can close.
Okay.